let's see, over on this side, this lady in the white sweater.
Thank you. With all of the glass that you're proposing to side the new hospital with, how do you plan to help vision impaired patients distinguish where, as Ms. Browling stated, where the wall and floor ends? How do you plan on doing that with all the glass?
You would. I think there are a couple of things that we can do. One of the things with the amount of... Oh, I'm not sure I heard the question.
So the question was, what steps can we take in the hospital to help visually impaired people distinguish between different types of services and materials? Did I get that right? And glass, with having glass windows and things like that. So the question has to do with design features to help with visual impairment.
Probably overall, the first thing that will be addressed is the quality of the lighting in the patient room and your control over that. And even for visual impairment, whether it's low vision, one of the biggest problems that we have is glare. And that can be an issue when the daylight isn't controlled. I can just about guarantee you that if it's at Stanford, it's going to be controlled in probably as good a way as it can be done. But we have shades now which let light come through, and you can actually see through them, that can either be set with the sun as a solar device, that as the sun goes up during the day, the shades adjust and come down. And it's all calculated, computer controlled. It's wonderful. You can at the same time give the patient control over that as well. So if they feel that they need more glare control, they have the ability to lower those shades even more. But it is a very important issue. And today, with the technology that we've got, it honestly isn't the problem to control that it has been in the past. So I can see what your concern is, and I think that you can rest assured that we do have the technology now to take care of that.
This lady right here in the pink red sweater. You, Carol? Microphone right behind you.
So Betsy talked about color, and the photographs that you had were very unclear about what you're thinking in terms of color. The European shower was clearly white in your picture, and you have glass and what look like white surfaces on the floors and wood. But I'm just wondering what your thinking is in terms of color and contrast.
I'm so glad that you noticed that all of the, we helped found an organization for designers about 5 years ago, which is called the American Academy of Healthcare Interior Designers. It is the highest certification that you can get, and you may not join this organization. The only way that you can be a part of it is to pass a very stiff certification exam. And this is for people who design acute care environments as well as senior care environments. And it's because we found so often, there are a lot of good ideas in hospitality design, and there are a lot of things that can be translated. But what we found is that many people weren't looking at what the problems were and how to come up with better solutions. They were trying to literally paint it a different color and make it work. Now, there's an immense amount that we can do with color. Contrast is really more important than anything else. You need to be there. If you can't see a handrail against the background, the chances are good you're not going to use it. We get better light reflectance from lighter colors, and the biggest surfaces in the room are the wall surfaces and the ceiling surfaces. And without going, it can be fairly complex to deal with, but it's very doable at the same time. But if you don't have the contrast between the things that you want people to see, and that doesn't have to be a dark color, but probably a medium color value, it's less important what the color is that you use than the fact that the contrast is there so that you can see it. In terms of almost every one of those bathrooms, they got a lot of the things in there, and designers love to be sure that everything coordinates. And by that, they don't like high contrast in a lot of situations. And that's fine. If you want to do, if you're 22 years old and you want to do your house that way, that's terrific. I think it's great. When people's safety depends on the decisions that you make, then it becomes an issue altogether different. There are a bazillion colors out there that we have to choose from. So that really isn't a hard thing to do. There are a lot of things that we can use, but the contrast becomes very important. And when you have light or white floors, most older eyes don't make the distinction between whether it's a pale gold and a pale blue. It's pale, and it all sort of runs together. So as simple as it should be, it's actually a fairly complex situation to deal with, but very doable and not an expensive thing necessarily to have to do. Your lighting will make the biggest difference of anything that you can do.
In just a little justification of where we are right now, the image you saw is a model, and that is a very early model in the design process. We tend early on to do models in white with no color because we haven't established even a color palette yet or how we're going to deal with that. So the interior color patterns design of the building has not been done yet, and that's why that space looks, the bathroom's white because no materials for that bathroom have been established yet. That model is very, very small, and I know it looks somewhat finished and real right now, but it's very early. Next month, we will be finishing what we call full-scale mock-up rooms at the first phase, but we will take these rooms and build them as if they were finished rooms, look at all the materials, test them with patients of various ages, various sizes, weights, disabilities, et cetera, and we will be looking at material color palettes at that time. So the answer is we're just not there yet.
Here in the back, this gentleman.
Yes, what arrangements are being made in the emergency room area to cater to older people? Cut out the confusion, for instance.
It's a very interesting point. Did any of you catch the NPR series on emergency rooms for the elderly about a week or so ago? We have a very diverse population, so we are not going to be setting up an emergency room specifically for elderly patients. But we are going to be using the research that's been done recently and around the country on what differential services need to be done. Rita's group is working diligently on how to provide the operational and social backup issues for the emergency department for looking at these things, and we'll be looking at these from a design standpoint. I think the issue from a design standpoint is the whole unit, other than our pediatric component, will be designed to service older patients because that will be appropriate for everyone in the emergency department.